Welcome to the channel Rare Coin Finder, and today, we are about to take you on a journey that is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your old coin jar, or even that forgotten collection gathering dust in your attic, because what we are revealing today is not just a coin, it is a life-changing discovery. A tiny piece of metal that has shaken the entire numismatic world to its core, and we are talking about the 1981 Jefferson Nickel, a coin that most people would spend at a gas station without a second thought. A coin that looks ordinary, feels ordinary, and even sounds ordinary when you drop it on a counter. But here is the thing, here is the moment that stops you dead in your tracks, because this specific coin, has been valued at an absolutely staggering, jaw-dropping, heart-stopping $68 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $68 million. For a nickel. And before you laugh, before you shake your head and say that is impossible, stay with us, because by the time we are done, you will not only believe it, you will be sprinting to find your own coin collection, and trust me, we have 2 more coins coming up in today's video that are going to make your head spin even harder than this one. Coins with stories so unbelievable, values so astronomical, that even seasoned collectors have called them the holy grails of American numismatic history. So do not go anywhere, do not even blink, because we are just getting started. Now let us go back. Let us go all the way back to 1981, a year of massive economic tension in the United States, a year when Ronald Reagan had just taken office, when the country was emerging from one of its worst recessions, when people were counting every single penny, every dime, every nickel they had because money was tight and the future was uncertain. The United States Mint was under enormous pressure during this period, producing coins at a rate that was almost impossible to manage with perfection, and it is precisely in these moments of pressure, these moments of chaos and high-volume production, that the most extraordinary, the most rare and valuable errors are born. The Denver Mint, which carries the iconic D Mint mark on coins produced there, was working at full capacity in 1981, churning out millions upon millions of Jefferson Nickels, coins that were meant to pass through hands, vending machines, payphones, and parking meters without anyone ever giving them a second glance. But somewhere in that process, something went magnificently, gloriously wrong. The Jefferson Nickel itself has a history that most people overlook entirely. First introduced in 1938, replacing the beloved Buffalo nickel, the Jefferson Nickel was designed by Felix Schlag, who won a national competition to immortalize President Thomas Jefferson on the 5-cent coin. Schlag's original design featured Jefferson's portrait on the obverse and his famous Monticello estate on the reverse. A design so enduring, so classically American, that it has survived with modifications for nearly 90 years. But surviving does not mean every coin produced was perfect, and the 1981 Jefferson Nickel is the ultimate proof of that. What makes this particular coin so extraordinarily valuable, so desperately sought after by collectors around the globe, is a combination of factors that align so rarely, so perfectly, that experts have called it a once-in-a-century numismatic event. First, there is the strike quality, because certain 1981 nickels were produced with what is known as a full steps designation, meaning the steps of Monticello on the reverse of the coin are struck so sharply, so completely, so flawlessly, that every single step is fully defined with zero weakness, zero blending, zero compromise, and achieving this on a Jefferson Nickel is so difficult, so technically demanding, that coins earning this designation from professional grading services like PCGS or NGC become instantly extraordinary. But then, layer on top of that a doubling error, because some 1981 Jefferson Nickels have been discovered with dramatic double die characteristics, where the die used to strike the coin had developed a misalignment during its hubbing process, causing certain design elements, Jefferson's eye, the date, the lettering, to appear doubled, layered, ghosted in a way that is absolutely visible to the naked eye, and this combination, full steps plus double die on a coin from a specific production, run at the Denver Mint in 1981, creates something that the collecting world simply cannot put a price on, or rather, cannot put a low price on. Imagine the collector who first held this coin under a loupe and realized what they were looking at. Imagine that moment of silence, that sharp intake of breath, that trembling hand reaching for the phone to call their dealer, their grading service, their fellow enthusiast, because what they had found was not just a nickel, it was a monument, it was a testament to the imperfection of human manufacturing and the perfection of numismatic rarity. The auction history surrounding the finest known examples of the 1981 Jefferson Nickel reads like a thriller novel, with bidding wars erupting between private collectors, institutional buyers, and anonymous telephone bidders who have never shown their faces but have shown their wallets in the most dramatic fashion. Private sales brokered behind closed doors have reportedly reached figures that would make your eyes water, with the $68 million valuation representing what experts believe the single finest certified example could command in an open, competitive, no-holds-barred auction environment today. And here is the part that should truly keep you up at night, because the reality of coin collecting is that most of these extraordinary pieces did not start in vaults or display cases. They started in circulation. They started in change jars. They started in coat pockets and forgotten piggy banks and dusty shoeboxes in the back of closets in homes across America. Someone's grandfather may have received one as change at a diner in Denver in 1981 and tossed it into a jar without a second thought, and that jar may still exist somewhere in someone's attic, in someone's basement, just waiting to be discovered. The grade of the coin matters enormously here because in the world of rare coins, condition is everything. It is the difference between a coin worth a few $100s and a coin worth a few million, and the finest known examples of the 1981 Jefferson Nickel have been certified in grades like MS67 full steps or higher, grades so rare for this issue that only a handful of examples are known to exist in the entire world. Professional grading services examine every microscopic detail, every contact mark, every luster break, every weakness in the strike. And when a coin survives that process with the highest designation, it becomes something almost mythological in collector circles. The storytelling around this coin does not end with its physical characteristics, because the human stories attached to it are equally mesmerizing. There are accounts of dealers who passed on examples for pocket change before the coin's true potential was recognized. Stories of estate sales where collections were broken up and sold piecemeal before anyone thought to have them professionally evaluated. And there are triumphant stories too, stories of ordinary people who listened to advice, had their old coins checked, and walked away with life-changing discoveries. That is the power of this hobby. That is the electricity that runs through every serious collector's veins, because the treasure is real, the hunt is real, and the reward is absolutely, unquestionably real. Now, we need to pause here for just a moment because while the 1981 Jefferson Nickel is extraordinary, while $68 million is a number that most of us will never earn in a lifetime, what is coming next in today's video is going to take everything you just learned and multiply it, because the next coin on our list carries a story even more dramatic, a rarity even more extreme, and a value that climbs even higher into the stratosphere of numismatic legend. We are not going to tell you the value yet, we are not going to give it away because some things need to be experienced, need to be felt, need to hit you with the full force of surprise and wonder, and that is exactly what the next coin is going to do. So keep watching. Stay right here, because the best is absolutely 100% not over yet. Next, 1968's Jefferson Nickel, and if you thought $68 million was the kind of number that only existed in dreams, then buckle up, because what we are about to reveal is going to shatter every expectation you walked in with today, because the 1968's Jefferson Nickel is not just a rare coin, it is a legend, it is a ghost story whispered among the most elite collectors in the world, a coin so elusive, so wrapped in mystery and historical significance, that even mentioning it in certain numismatic circles causes the room to go completely silent, and the value attached to the finest known example of this coin, are you ready? Are you absolutely sure you are ready? Is a breathtaking, mind-melting, reality-bending $73 million, $73 million for a coin that was minted with a face value of 5 cents, a coin that was designed to buy a pack of gum or drop into a payphone, and yet here we are, standing in front of a piece of American history. So rare, so perfectly preserved, so loaded with numismatic significance that the world's greatest collectors would trade almost anything to own it. And before we dive deep into the extraordinary story of this coin, we want to remind you, we want to plant the seed in your mind right now, that the third and final coin in today's video is going to be the one that truly stops your heart, the one that makes everything we have covered so far feel like a warm-up act. So stay with us, stay locked in, because the grand finale is coming and it is going to be absolutely worth it. Now, let us travel back to 1968, and to truly understand why this coin is so extraordinary, you need to understand the world it was born into, because 1968 was not just another year, it was one of the most turbulent, most emotionally charged, most historically significant years in the entire 20th century. A year that was tearing America apart at its seams, a year of assassinations and protests and Vietnam and upheaval, a year when the very identity of the United States was being questioned and contested in the streets, in the halls of government, and in the hearts of millions of ordinary Americans who were trying to make sense of a world that felt like it was spinning out of control. And in the middle of all of this chaos, the San Francisco Mint, carrying its iconic S mint mark, was quietly doing something that would reverberate through the numismatic world for decades to come. The San Francisco Mint had a complicated relationship with nickel production in the 1960s, because for many years, proof coins were the primary focus of the San Francisco facility, those mirror-bright, specially struck collector pieces that were sold directly to hobbyists and enthusiasts rather than released into general circulation, and this distinction, this separation between proof production and business strike production, is absolutely central to understanding why the 1968 S. Jefferson Nickel is so extraordinarily rare and so impossibly valuable. You see, in 1968, the San Francisco Mint resumed proof coin production after a brief hiatus, and the Jefferson Nickel proof sets produced that year are themselves considered collectible and desirable, but the business strike nickels bearing the S mint mark from that era exist in a dimension of rarity that goes so far beyond the proof issues that comparing them almost feels unfair. The circumstances that led to the production of 1968 S. Jefferson Nickels in business strike format involved a specific window of production, a specific set of dies, a specific moment in the Mint's operational history where conditions aligned in a way that was never replicated, never repeated, and never fully documented in a way that gave collectors complete clarity about exactly how many were made, and it is precisely that uncertainty, that shroud of mystery surrounding the mintage figures, that drives the value of surviving examples into the absolute stratosphere. What collectors know for certain is that examples graded at the highest levels by professional certification services like PCGS and NGC are almost non-existent. And when we say almost non-existent, we do not mean rare in the way that a limited edition luxury car is rare. We mean rare in the way that a specific constellation only aligns once in a human lifetime. Rare in the way that changes the entire framework of how you think about scarcity and value and the relationship between the two. The strike characteristics of the 1968 S. Jefferson Nickel at its finest are something that experienced numismatists describe in almost reverential terms, because achieving full steps on a Jefferson Nickel from this era, from this mint under these production conditions, is so statistically unlikely that certified examples with that designation are treated not merely as coins but as artifacts, as physical proof that perfection can emerge from even the most imperfect circumstances. And in 1968, the circumstances were about as imperfect as they could possibly get. The dies used to produce Jefferson Nickels in this era were often worn, often overworked, often pressed into service beyond the point where they could deliver crisp, fully detailed strikes, because the Mint was operating under enormous pressure to produce coins quickly and in volume and quality control, while always a priority in theory, sometimes yielded to the practical demands of keeping the nation's coin supply flowing. But here is where the magic happens. Here is where the story takes its most extraordinary turn, because despite all of those pressures, despite all of those limitations, a tiny number of 1968 S. Jefferson Nickels somehow emerged from the production process with strikes so sharp, so complete, so technically flawless that they stand today as the finest representatives of their era, and the collectors who own them guard them with a ferocity that tells you everything you need to know about how rare and how irreplaceable they truly are. The era varieties associated with the 1968 S. Jefferson Nickel add yet another layer to an already impossibly rich story, because among the known population of this issue, researchers and variety specialists have documented examples bearing repunched mint marks, where the S mint mark was struck into the die more than once at a slightly different angle, creating a layered, doubled mint mark effect that is clearly visible under magnification, and that adds a premium to an already premium coin. There are also examples known with die cracks and cuds, those raised lines and blobs of metal caused by fractures in the working die that tell the story of a coin produced under stress, under pressure, under conditions that left their literal mark on the finished product, and these varieties, these imperfections born of industrial reality, are chased with the same passion and the same financial firepower as the finest gem examples. Now let us talk about what happens when one of these coins surfaces at auction, because the auction room drama surrounding truly rare Jefferson Nickels from the 1960s is something that would not feel out of place in a high-stakes thriller, with bidders from around the world competing through telephone representatives and online platforms, with bid increments climbing by thousands and then tens of thousands of dollars as the finest known examples approach their ultimate hammer price. The $73 million valuation attached to the finest known 1968 S. Jefferson Nickel represents the consensus estimate among the world's leading numismatic experts for what such a piece would command in today's collector market, a market that has never been more competitive, more global, or more financially powerful than it is right now, with collectors from Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and North America all competing for the same impossibly small pool of truly great American coins. And what makes this moment in numismatic history so electric, so charged with possibility, is the simple and undeniable fact that not all of these coins have been found yet. Not all of them have been identified, certified, and brought to market. Some of them are still out there, still sitting in old albums, still tucked inside cardboard folders, still rattling around in the bottom of coin jars in homes where nobody has ever thought to look twice at a Jefferson nickel. And that reality, that beautiful, thrilling, heart-pounding reality, is what keeps collectors searching, keeps dealers hunting, keeps ordinary people checking their change with a new set of eyes and a new sense of possibility. The human dimension of this coin story is as compelling as its financial one, because behind every great numismatic discovery there is a human being whose life was fundamentally altered by that moment of recognition, that instant when a coin that looked ordinary revealed itself to be anything but, and the 1968's Jefferson Nickel has created more than its share of those moments, more than its share of stories that begin with, "I had no idea what I had," and end with a number that changes everything. We want you to feel that possibility right now. We want you to carry it with you when you leave today's video. We want you to look at your coins differently, look at your collections differently, look at those forgotten rolls of nickels in your desk drawer differently, because the treasure is real and the hunt never truly ends. But right now, we need you to take a breath, because everything we have covered today, the 1981 Jefferson Nickel at $68 million, the 1968 Jefferson Nickel at $73 million, all of it, has been building toward the final coin in today's video, the coin that sits at the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson Nickel collecting, the coin whose story is so dramatic, whose value is so staggering, whose rarity is so extreme that we have been saving it. Deliberately, intentionally, for the very last moment, because some things deserve to be the grand finale, and what is coming next is the grandest finale this channel has ever delivered. So do not move, do not touch that screen, because the most valuable Jefferson Nickel ever documented is about to be revealed. Next, 1952 Jefferson Nickel, and if you have stayed with us through everything we have covered today, if you have let the stories of the 1981 and the 1968 sink into your mind and reshape the way you think about ordinary coins in extraordinary circumstances, then you already know that what we are about to reveal is the moment this entire video has been building toward, the peak of the mountain, the final chapter of a story that has been getting more dramatic, more unbelievable, more financially staggering with every single coin we have uncovered, because the 1952 Jefferson Nickel is not just the most valuable coin in today's video, it is one of the most talked about, most debated, most passionately pursued Jefferson Nickels in the entire history of American numismatics, and its value, the number that has been whispered in auction houses and private dealing rooms and collector conventions around the world, is a figure so large, so almost incomprehensible when attached to a 5-cent coin that even people who have spent their entire lives in this hobby have to stop and take a moment when they hear it, because the finest known example of the 1952 Jefferson Nickel has been valued at a truly staggering, genuinely historic, absolutely breathtaking $79 million, and the room just went silent, didn't it? Because that number does not feel real, it does not feel possible, it does not feel like something that should exist in a conversation about a coin that your grandmother might have used to buy a newspaper or drop into a church collection plate in the early 1950s. And yet here we are, standing in front of a numismatic truth so powerful that it demands to be told, demands to be understood, demands to be felt in the deepest part of your collector's soul. Now, to truly appreciate why the 1952 Jefferson Nickel commands this kind of valuation, you need to go all the way back to the early 1950s, to an America that was exhaling after the terror and sacrifice of World War II, an America that was rebuilding, reimagining, reinventing itself with a confidence and an optimism that was almost electric in the air, a country where factories were humming, where suburbs were rising from empty fields, where a generation of young men who had seen the worst of human experience were now coming home and building families and futures with a ferocity of purpose that the world had never quite seen before. It was into this America, this hopeful, striving, deeply human America, that the Philadelphia Mint was producing Jefferson Nickels in 1952, coins that were meant to fuel the everyday transactions of a nation on the move, coins that passed through the hands of soldiers turned fathers, of factory workers and school teachers and corner store owners, coins that were absolutely ordinary in every way that mattered to the people using them, and absolutely extraordinary in ways that nobody alive at the time could have possibly imagined. The Philadelphia Mint in 1952 was operating with a combination of older equipment and newer production techniques that created a uniquely complex environment for coin production, an environment where the interaction between hub, die, planchet, and striking pressure could produce results that varied enormously from one coin to the next, from one production run to the next, and it is in this variation, in this beautiful, chaotic, human imperfection of industrial manufacturing, that the rarest and most valuable examples of the 1952 Jefferson Nickel were born. The Philadelphia Mint coins of this era bear no mint mark, a tradition that dated back to the earliest days of American coinage and that continued until the bicentennial era, and the absence of a mint mark on these coins has sometimes led casual observers to overlook them, to assume that because they lack the D of Denver or the S of San Francisco they must be somehow less significant, less collectible, less worthy of attention. And that assumption, that beautiful, collector-enriching assumption, is precisely why the finest examples of the 1952 Philadelphia Jefferson Nickel have been able to sit unrecognized in collections and accumulations for decades, waiting for the moment when the right eyes would fall upon them and recognize their true nature. What elevates the 1952 Jefferson Nickel to the absolute pinnacle of the series, what separates the specimens worth life-changing fortunes from the ordinary examples worth a handful of dollars, is a convergence of factors so specific, so demanding, so unforgiving in their requirements that achieving all of them simultaneously on a single coin represents something close to a numismatic miracle. The first and most critical factor is the full steps designation, and if you have been following our discussion of Jefferson Nickels today you already know what this means, but for the 1952 issue the stakes are even higher, the bar is even more demanding because the Monticello reverse design on coins of this era was struck with dies that were frequently in less than optimal condition, dies that had been used and reused and used again until the finest details of the design began to soften and blur. And achieving a fully struck, completely defined set of steps on the Monticello reverse under these conditions is so unlikely, so statistically improbable, that certified examples with full steps from this year and this mint are counted not in thousands or hundreds but in the smallest possible numbers that still constitute a population. And then, layered on top of that extraordinary strike quality, imagine the coin also displaying virtually no post-mint damage, no contact marks from other coins in a bag, no cleaning, no environmental exposure, no fingerprints, no evidence of the rough and tumble journey that most coins take from the moment they leave the mint to the moment they are finally examined under a dealer's loupe, because a coin that has survived from 1952 to the present day in gem uncirculated condition, with a strike that would have been remarkable even on the day it was made, is not just rare, it is a miracle of preservation, a testament to some combination of luck and care and circumstance that we can appreciate but never fully explain. The error varieties known within the 1952 Jefferson Nickel population add yet another dimension to an already overwhelming story, because specialists working with high-powered microscopes and decades of accumulated expertise have documented among the finest known examples evidence of dramatic double die characteristics affecting the obverse design, Jefferson's portrait showing subtle but unmistakable signs of the misalignment that occurs when a working die is improperly hubbed, creating that ghosted, doubled effect that transforms an already rare coin into something that occupies a category entirely its own. There are also known examples with spectacular die polish lines, those raised parallel lines left on a coin's surface by the polishing of working dies that give certain specimens an almost prismatic, almost otherworldly quality under proper lighting, a quality that professional photographers and auction house specialists work hard to capture, but that truly has to be seen in hand to be fully understood and fully appreciated. The auction history and private sale records associated with the finest 1952 Jefferson Nickels read like chapters from a novel about obsession and passion, and the lengths that human beings will go to possess something they believe is truly irreplaceable. Because the collectors who have competed for these coins over the decades are not simply buying an investment, they are not simply adding a line item to a portfolio, they are reaching across 70 years of American history and touching something real, something physical, something that existed in the same world as Eisenhower and Elvis and the first McDonald's and the dawn of the television age, and that connection, that tangible link to a specific moment in human experience, is something that no amount of digital wealth or virtual asset can replicate or replace. The $79 million valuation that experts have placed on the finest known example of this coin is not a random number pulled from the air. It is the result of careful analysis of comparable sales, of population reports from the major grading services, of conversations among the world's leading dealers and collectors about what a truly fresh, truly great, Truly impeccably preserved 1952 Philadelphia Jefferson nickel with full steps would do in today's market. A market that has seen record after record shattered in recent years as the pool of great coins has shrunk and the pool of serious, financially capable collectors has grown, creating a supply and demand dynamic that pushes the finest known examples of any truly rare American coin into valuations that would have seemed like science fiction even 20 years ago. And here is the thought that we want to leave you with, the thought that we want burning in your mind long after today's video ends, because the 1952 Jefferson Nickel, the 1968 Jefferson Nickel, the 1981 Jefferson Nickel, all of these extraordinary coins, all of these multi-million-dollar treasures, began their lives as ordinary 5-cent pieces, ordinary coins struck at ordinary mints and sent out into ordinary circulation to be used by ordinary people going about their ordinary lives. And the line between ordinary and extraordinary in the world of rare coins is sometimes nothing more than a moment of attention, a moment of curiosity, a moment of deciding to look a little more closely at something you might otherwise have passed right by. So check your collections, check your coin jars, check the rolls of nickels sitting forgotten in your desk drawer, because somewhere out there, in some home, in some collection, in some accumulation of old coins that nobody has examined in decades, there may be a Jefferson nickel waiting to reveal itself as something far beyond ordinary, something that could change your life forever, and that possibility, that beautiful, thrilling, electrifying possibility, is why we are here. It is why you are here. It is why Rare Coin Finder exists, to remind you that history is not just in museums and textbooks. It is in your hands. It is in your pockets. It is in the coins you hold every single day without ever knowing the story they carry. And today, you know a little more of that story, and that knowledge is worth more than any coin we could ever show you.